This year marks the 40th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda series. Now, Legend of Zelda is one of my favorite franchises of all time. I have a very hard time imagining it's not in my top three favorites of all time. And of course, my favorite game in the Legend of Zelda series is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And for years, I see online all the time people wanting an Ocarina of Time remake. I have a friend, and every single Nintendo Direct that happens, he always texts me, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake. I know when the Switch 2 is coming out, he's like, Ocarina of Time remake, launch title, Ocarina of Time remake, Ocarina of Time remake. And honestly, I do not want an Ocarina of Time remake. I really do not want a brand new Ocarina of Time remake. I played Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on Nintendo Switch Online a couple years ago. I just got an analog 3D. I plan on playing it on that. Like, I like the old graphics and everything about Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And that's how they already kind of remade slash remastered the game on the 3DS. Now, when it comes to a new good looking Ocarina of Time on modern platforms, I do hope that Nintendo will bring over the 3DS version. Just put that on Nintendo Switch 2. I'm sure they're gonna charge like $70 for it. That sucks, but it is what it is. I mean, they basically charged full price for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which was the same thing, and same with Luigi's Mansion 2, a 3DS game ported over to Switch. So and it's Zelda, Zelda has that power. They charge Tears of the Kingdom an extra $10 than a full price Switch game just you know, because of how good Breath of the Wild sold, and that this is the next big open world Zelda. And they knew they could do it, and they did it. And look at they're fine. They made a lot of money because they did that extra $10. So I think that's the most I would want out of a new Ocarina of Time release for the Switch 2. I don't know why people would want to settle for a complete remake. Because in the end it's gonna be the same game. I kind of just got burnt on Gears of War Reloaded, which was just kind of a remastered game I already love, and I just don't even like that version as much because that nostalgia plays a factor in just like the charm and like just the moment of time that game was built. That's why we love it. What I really want is an Ocarina of Time 2. So Majora's Mask is a sequel to Ocarina of Time, and that follows Young Link, what happens after Ocarina of Time. What I would really want for the 40th anniversary of Zelda would be for Nintendo to release, I'm going to call it Ocarina of Time 2, but a sequel to Ocarina of Time that instead of following Young Link, I'd want to see what happens with Adult Link, his next adventure, a new villain that he fights. Now, I would want it to be basically a spiritual successor to Ocarina of Time. So, not a remake. I don't want to play the same game I can already play right now that just looks prettier, which we kind of already have with the 3DS. Just bring that over. I want for the 40th anniversary, or I mean, like that'd be ideal if it happened on the 40th anniversary. But really, I want this like whenever it happens, it happens. But that'd be so awesome for the 40th anniversary. Ocarina of Time 2. Adult Link, what happens next, a new bad guy, have the ocarina in it, just like how you had the ocarina of Majora's Mask, and be a spiritual successor, have the same kind of structure, the same kind of scope, the same kind of like temple structure. You get a key item and you use that to start progressing puzzles. You get to a temple and you're kind of stuck till you find that key item and then you can get through. So just give us some new items, a new world to explore, a new story. I would ideally like it to be the same scope. I don't want this to be a 40-hour game. I want it to be kind of the same size as Ocarina of Time. People who want the Ocarina of Time remake want that Ocarina of Time experience. That's what I want. I want a new Ocarina of Time experience. I want that same scope, that same feel, like that same just kind of nostalgic factor in terms of like the gameplay structure and the way it's built. I just wanted to jump back in here real quick because I literally had a shower thought. I was thinking a little more about like what could like a new mechanic or a hook be for Ocarina of Time 2. And I was thinking, like, what if it actually was an Ocarina of Time 2? Literally. Because I've been saying Ocarina of Time 2, but really, like, that's just like a code, like, word. Like, basically, like Majora's Mask, still in that Ocarina of Time world, still have the Ocarina, the same Link and all that. But obviously, Majora's Mask is not Ocarina of Time 2. It has a totally different hook to it. And so I was thinking, like, it'd be really cool is Ocarina of Time, you start out as young Link, and you have to, use the Ocarina and the Temple of Time to go into the future, become adult Link to, help, like, defeat Ganon and all that. What if this was the opposite? That, this is actually the same timeline as young Link. After Majora's Mask, he grows up into adult Link properly. And in this new adventure or conflict or whatever, you start out as adult Link and you have to use the Ocarina and the Temple in Time and go back in time and become young Link to, I don't know, uncover some like forgotten memories or something like that. He has amnesia or something. But either way, like, kind of just the reverse of Ocarina of Time. Instead of starting out as a kid and becoming an adult, you start out as an adult and become a kid. And I don't know. I think that would be a pretty good hook for like an Ocarina of Time too. I don't know. I thought that'd be cool. Worth sharing. I wanted to put that in the video. If this is something you're vibing with, do consider liking and subscribing. And back to the video. I don't want to settle for a remake or a remaster. Like, I want a brand new game. And it's not. I feel like it's not that far out of the question. We got this with A Link to the Past. Nintendo did give a sequel to Link to the Past with A Link Between Worlds. So it's not out of the question for them to like revisit such a thing. I'm just honestly, for the past 10 years, burnt out with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They're great games. And like, I love them, but to me, they just never really felt like Zelda games. I was very disappointed when I first played Breath of the Wild. I got a Switch. I didn't even get it at launch. And I got a Switch 2 for Mario Odyssey, but I got it a couple weeks early before Odyssey came out, and I got Breath of the Wild with it. And as soon as Odyssey came out, I put it down. I never went back to Breath of the Wild. It took until 2020 when I was just like, locked up to revisit Breath of the Wild. I'm like, and I put in like 80 hours in the game. I'm like, it's a good game. It's fun. But I just feel like it's categorically a different type of Zelda game. You have traditional 3D Zelda and you have 2D Zelda. That's kind of always been the thing. And I don't lump Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in with 3D Zelda. That's why I have to say traditional 3D Zelda. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom to me is open world Zelda. And I think there's a place for open world Zelda, traditional 3D Zelda, and 2D Zelda to all coexist. Zelda's kind of been on a yearly release schedule all throughout the Switch lifecycle because I think Nintendo does think they have three types of Zeldas. It's just 3D, 2D, and then Hyrule Warriors. Hyrule Warriors has kind of been any year that hasn't had like a traditional like real Zelda game, there's been a Hyrule Warriors games. And if Nintendo thinks those are three different things, then I think there could be a fourth Zelda game, and I think that is traditional 3D Zelda. I mean, I guess we've gotten the Skyward Sword HD remaster, which I definitely enjoyed more than when I first played the game back in 2011. It wasn't too bad. Out of the traditional 3D Zeldas being Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword's by far the worst, like easily the worst one. But without not including that one, it's just been so long since we got a new 3D Zelda game. Even if you go back to the Wii U, they got Wind Waker remaster and Twilight Princess remaster. I still hope those come out on Switch, and I think that's just something that Nintendo's holding like up their sleeve and just gonna use those games when, they again open world 2D and Hyrule Warriors. If there's a game that doesn't line up that year, then they're sprinkling like, okay, here's a remake or a remaster. I just don't want that remake or remaster of Ocarina of Time. Yeah, the 3DS one will be good enough, but I don't want like some ground up rebuilt one. I just think that's a waste of time. Just give us a sequel. That's what I want. Now, what would be big bonus points for Nintendo in terms of consumer friendly? Which, I mean, they could really use a W right now, to be quite honest. And I don't think they're gonna do this, but what would be awesome is, hey, I would if Ocarina of Time, the original one, is 15 to 20 hours long. I would want Ocarina of Time 2 to be 15 to 20 hours long. And in modern day gaming and releases, people would probably say that's too short and whatever for full price. I would much rather it be 15 and 20 hours. And like, if they could, they won't do it, but if they can make a double pack like Galaxy 1 and 2, where it was the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time / Master Quest, and this new Ocarina of Time 2 that's scoped appropriately to be like the same length as Ocarina of Time, that'd be a huge win for me. Make that $80. I think that'd be a great $80 value. I don't think they would do it. I think that Ocarina of Time 3DS ported over to Switch 2, they would sell that for $70, and this new game would be $70. But the moral of the story is, I don't really necessarily want this to be like a 40 to 60 hour long experience. Like, I would much rather have that short, sweet, and very, very replayable experience. Because yeah, that's my biggest problem with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is great games, but I like don't want to replay them. It's such sounds like such a daunting task to go back and replay them. Ocarina of Time, one of the greatest things about the game is I can replay that game every 2 to 3 years. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like, man, like I so feel burnt out by that. I don't want to go back and dive into that. I know it's a commitment, and like I especially don't want to play those games back to back. I can play Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask back to back, and then even like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. I feel like I can marathon that someday. But just even just back to back Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that's something like I don't want to do. And so yeah, I really would love to see the return of traditional 3D Zelda. And I don't see a better way of like bringing it back than an Ocarina of Time 2 following Adult Link. He's the best version of Link. That's why people like Ocarina of Time so much. Ocarina of Time Adult Link is the coolest version of Link, without a doubt. You gotta put on the red tunic and the hover boots and the mirror shield. Like that's the best version of Link, no doubt about it. Um, but yeah, so like I feel like they went the open world and they're like, oh, traditional 3D Zelda, that doesn't sell as well. And so people want the open world. It's like, no, I think maybe just like Skyward Sword didn't sell as well. And like Twilight Princess, that ended up like on the end of the GameCube, beginning of the Wii. Like, and then Wind Waker had the art style, but these games have aged amazingly. And I don't know, I think people are ready for 3D Zelda, getting a little burnt out by just all the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, even in the Hyrule Warriors games, it's the same story, so it's really easy to get burnt out by that. And even Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I liked Echoes of Wisdom. It was really cool to play as Zelda, like a really cool direction to have in 2D Zelda, and a great entry in like the long list of Zelda game series. I'm glad it exists. But I really don't like how they Breath of the Wild it a little bit. You can go anywhere you want. That's kind of cool, but it makes it not as tight. And then like just like the inventory like wheel, where it's just like this endless wheel. I think that UI is just ugly and horrible. Um, but yeah, so if they wanted to bring back traditional 3D Zelda and build hype for it and get to sell, I don't think Ocarina of Time Remake is the way to go. I mean, like I get like it could be easy money, sure, but that I don't want to settle for that. As a fan, as a big Zelda fan, I see people saying Ocarina of Time Remake. I'm just kind of like, really? Like, that's what you want? Like, are you even like this like massive fan? Like, I get it, but like, I'd rather have Ocarina of Time 2, an original 3D traditional Zelda game. And if that was aligned with the 40th anniversary of Zelda, that would be what gets me excited. If they release Ocarina of Time Remake or remaster, like, I'd be happy, but that's not what I want. That's not what I'm excited for. I'm not going every Nintendo Direct being like, please be the Ocarina of Time Remake, please be the Ocarina of Time Remake. I go in being like, if that gets announced, I'm not surprised in the slightest. I'm not rooting for it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys want an Ocarina of Time remake, or would you rather have an Ocarina of Time 2 as Adult Link? Thanks. See you in the next video.